Welcome back, Thrivers. This episode of the Thriving Equine Professional is coming to you from Oklahoma. I am so excited to have a 2023 graduate of the University of Kentucky Equine Science and Management program. Stephanie Smith has made her way from Virginia to Kentucky to now Oklahoma, and we're going to dig into how this has all come about and what she's doing now, really her first year out of college, and this cool job that she has and how this has all happened. So, Stephanie Smith, welcome to the Thriving Equine Professional, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I'm excited to dig into this story. So, Stephanie, you grew up in Virginia. So, tell us kind of the beginning. How did you start into horses, agriculture? What was the beginning of the Stephanie story?
Well, I could not tell you exactly when it started. I just know that I have always loved horses. They were always my favorite animal. In art class, the only thing I ever wanted to draw was horses and farms and pastures full of them. So it really just, I was infatuated with horses from a young age. I started riding when I was about 6. I started taking riding lessons in my hometown at a local barn. And I rode there until I moved away after college. And the whole time, as soon as I could drive, I was volunteering. They were also an equine rescue. So as soon as I could drive, I was there after school every day, volunteering and working with the rescue horses. So I just absolutely loved it. So that was how I really got into the horses. And then when I realized that you could go to college and study equine science, I knew that was what I wanted to do. And then, of course, I picked the University of Kentucky because that is just like the perfect place to go for that. So,
The Mecca of horse country, right? So,
yeah.
and Virginia has quite, a horse population as well, and they are well known for their equine. Did you simply know that you wanted to go to UK, Stephanie, or did you look at some schools and then fall in love with the campus? Tell us a little bit more about how you made that decision.
Yeah, of course. So I actually did a lot of research on equine programs all across the country. We went and looked at a few different schools, and then when I went and visited UK, which we visited in the winter, and of course I'm from Northern Virginia up in the mountains. It's gorgeous there, so having like a beautiful environment just makes me feel really good. It's like really important to me. I want to love where I am. So we went in the winter and I just fell in love with campus and with the people we met. And I had that feeling like this is where I need to be. This is the right choice. And even in the winter, I thought that Lexington and like central Kentucky was beautiful. And I was like, I can't wait to come back and see it in the fall when school starts. So just I looked around and then when I got there, I just had that feeling that that was where I needed to be.
That's awesome. And I want our listeners to hear that, right? So many of our young listeners are like, okay, how do I even decide where to go to school? And so you make some really good points. Go visit a few, but once you get on campus, oftentimes you just have a feeling and you know that's where you're supposed to be. Props to you for loving UK in the winter. I do, I came from Maryland originally, Stephanie, and then, have spent most of my life in Kentucky. I still want to go south. When it comes to winter, I just want to head out, right? So, yeah, good for you for kind of seeing the beauty of the winter because as much as I love Central Kentucky, I can tell you that January and February are my least favorite months.
Yeah, I would agree. I definitely don't like to be cold. So that definitely factored into my after graduation decision.
Oh, okay. Well,
Um,
we'll get to that. But
yeah.
even I do want to, as we talk about your college choice and your college career, Stephanie, you are a first generation graduate. Is that correct? First
That
generation
is
college
correct.
attendee?
That is correct. Yep, the first in my immediate family.
Yeah, I love to give a shout out there because I also am first generation and I realize that I think that has its own set of challenges, right? As far as making a choice and especially for you going hours away from home, right? You didn't decide to go to school in your backyard or stay at home. So, again, I want our listeners to hear all of these different aspects of how you have really built this thriving career in the past 5 years, right? Like 5 years ago, you were a senior in high school. So you've done a lot. right?
That's crazy to put it that way. That makes me feel a little bit old. I mean, I know I'm not old, but yeah, like time has flown. And I will say, especially being first gen, so my mom did some community college, so she had a little bit of experience, but of course, that was in our hometown. So moving to Kentucky was a huge move. It was terrifying. I didn't know anybody. So mostly the unknowns made being first gen so difficult because like my family, we didn't know what to expect. We had no idea what we were doing. We didn't even know what questions to ask. And of course, that year was also COVID. So everything was different. Nothing was how it was supposed to be. So that was almost like a blessing in disguise because, that first year we didn't know what we were missing until
Yes.
things started to be normal again. But having a lot of supportive people, and especially on campus, that made the transition easier even though you just don't even know what you don't know.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. You don't know what you don't know. That's really well said. So let's get on campus with you. You became involved in a number of different activities. And so you were focused on equine science and management, right? Like that was your focus. So that's the program you stepped into. But then you kind of grabbed a hold of every opportunity, it looks like to me, Stephanie. So tell us a little bit more about how that flowed. I know you were a Wildcat Wrangler, and I want you to talk about that, but tell us kind of how, from freshman to senior, what were the pieces and parts that really made a difference in who you are and what you do today?
Yeah, of course. So I would say freshman year, probably the most beneficial thing I did was I was part of the College of Ag. We had like a basically like a freshman cohort. So we lived in the dorm. Like we had a section of the dorm where a whole bunch of the College of Ag kids all lived together. So our roommates and our neighbors were all College of Ag. We had different majors, but through that I met my best friend, which that was a huge supporting piece. And I couldn't have done it without her. But being in that little cohort, that allowed me to meet other people in my program as well. So again, with it being COVID, you couldn't really do anything. You weren't supposed to be mingling and everything, but with those small groups, it allowed us to do that and to get to know people better. Um, so that was a big thing freshman year. That helped me to meet a lot of people and to build those connections with the few in-person classes that we did have. So yeah, that year was a lot of just figuring things out and being on our own. So it was a lot of fun. Um,
Good.
and then I would say I also started to do some volunteer internships. The first one, I spent a semester at the Kentucky Equine Adoption Center. And I went out and volunteered, I think a couple of times a week, and really enjoyed that, working with the horses and seeing the different ones come in and how they kind of progressed and retrained them. So I did those types of things. And then I worked for a trainer up in Shelbyville. I rode horses for him for a little while. That was a lot of fun. I got to work with gaited horses. I hadn't done that before. So just being in central Kentucky opened up all those opportunities of like different types of equine things that I didn't even know existed. And a lot of our programs through equine science at UK, they encourage you to job shadow, and that was actually like a requirement for one of our classes. So when I first went to college, I thought I wanted to do equine assisted therapy. That was my original plan. So as part of that job shadowing, I shadowed at an equine assisted therapy center, like at a program, and that was really, really cool. I really enjoyed that. And then I believe it was actually my junior year. So my last year and a half, I was a Wildcat Wrangler, which that was a really amazing program. So basically we were ambassadors for equine science at UK. And let me tell you, that forced me to get out of my shell. And like I felt like I grew exponentially from that experience and from having people who pushed us to be better. And I was always kind of shy and more laid back, but being in more of a forward, front facing position really helped me to gain confidence and to get my feet into more things, especially within the industry. I worked at a couple of thoroughbred farms, working with brood mares. I love the babies, but I did not love mucking straw stalls. That was not fun. I was used to the sawdust. So being part of those, as a Wildcat Wrangler, we got to plan community events, not only for the students at UK, but also with local equine businesses and organizations. So that was a huge thing, learning how to put on events and plan things and work as a team, and how to kind of give up that control a little bit and trust your teammates, and then to put on amazing events that were successful and had the community involved. I just absolutely loved that. Um, so that was definitely a big part of my program and how I was able to grow in my college journey.
Yeah,
Um,
that's incredible. Those programs and, really again, everything that you're saying that we want others to hear is you didn't know about Wildcat Wranglers before you went, right? That
right.
you didn't know about riding gaited horses. You didn't know about job shadowing. And so when you get to college or even in your first jobs, the more questions you ask and the more you put yourself out there. That's what I'm hearing you say is just you tried things and you went and did things, even though, as in your words, you're a little bit more shy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that was the thing too, was the big move that helped me a lot because I didn't know anybody. So like everyone was a stranger. You had to introduce yourself. You had to be confident and try to meet them. So that helped a lot too. But really, it was just take advantage of the opportunities because you never know what one thing will lead to, especially internship wise or the people that you know. So the internship that influenced me the most for my career was actually I met Krista, which you've had her on the show, Krista Lay. Um,
Yes.
so love her. I actually met her in one of my classes. She was like a guest presenter one day, and she
Okay.
mentioned that they had a summer internship with pasture evaluation. And I wrote that down, and I'm telling you, I emailed her for like multiple times until they started putting out the applications, and I was like, hey, I'm really interested. Please let me know when that comes out. I want to apply. You know, if I hadn't taken that class and she hadn't been a guest presenter, I would have never done that internship. And ultimately, that would have never led me to the career that I'm in now. I might have got there a different way, but I
Right.
took that chance when it came up and it worked out really well. So,
I love that story, Stephanie, because there's not a lot of us out here at that age that would have said, "Oh, yeah, I definitely want to do an internship on pasture management."
yeah.
Right? Now, I will tell you at this age and stage of my career, looking back, there are a couple things I wish I would have done in college. One of them is meats judging, like meats class. I would like to know more about meats. The other is pasture management. And I think especially when you spend any time at all in central Kentucky, it becomes fascinating. Like the quality of our forage and how important it is not only to horses but also to our livestock.
Yeah.
It's just it's fascinating to me, and I don't think at your age it would have been fascinating.
Yeah, and that definitely was a common thing. Most of our class did not love learning about grasses and how to identify them, but I thought it was so cool. And then, like you said, it's makes such a big impact. And now that I'm in more of an agriculture focused industry, there a lot of our ranchers, they don't say that they raise cattle, they say that they raise grass because
Yes.
without the pasture, without the grass, they have nothing to feed to grow those cattle. So I think that is so interesting that, and that was something
Fascinating.
growing up, I had no idea. I didn't even know. And then I fell in love with it through that
Yeah.
intern.
And really, that plays right into my fascination with meats because I like to also know more about meats because I love to eat beef.
Yes.
So I think that, those are the kinds of things that we learn as we go. But, just kudos to you for pursuing those kinds of opportunities. And so that internship, it looks like maybe led to another internship.
It did. So I spent the summer, I apologize, they'll pick that up. But I spent that summer doing the pasture evaluation internship. And then, so that was kind of that was related to UK's Forage Extension program and the kind of the campus side of it. So that was how I got introduced to extension. And then I actually went back to Krista and Dr. Smith and I was like, hey, is there another way, like, is there another internship I could do with you and see kind of the more on campus side of extension? Because we were out doing more of the research collection and in the field. And I was like, I want to see what you guys get to do every day. I want to see that side of extension. So I spent another semester with them, learning about kind of the outreach side. So I got to help write and edit publications, and I got to help table a lot of events and things like that. And just absolutely loved it, and worked with some county educators and realized that that was what I wanted to do, was to be a county educator. Um, I guess in Kentucky they're agents, but out here they call us educators. So I just I through that second internship, I was like, that's what I want to do. So it just helped me find out. Yeah.
Oh, I love this. And I'm going to say, thank you, Oklahoma, because I like the term educator better than agent, right? It makes more sense. And I think it makes more sense to the community. And this is where I'm going to say it'll make more sense to our listeners. Because, Stephanie, we have so many listeners that are going to probably have very little idea what extension is. Can you give us a little bit of an explanation of extension and what you do?
Yes, of course. So basically, extension is one of the branches of a land grant university. So, like University of Kentucky is also a land grant. So they have an extension program throughout the state of Kentucky. And then I'm at Oklahoma State University, so we have extension here as well. We actually have educators in all 77 counties of Oklahoma. So basically, my job is to take the research and information from the university and get it to the public to help improve their way of life, to help them better spend or save their money, or just improve overall quality of life and spread that information. So Extension has a long, long history. So pretty much as soon as land grant universities were created, they had the education arm, the research arm, and then the extension arm, which is why it's cooperative. It's funded by the government and the state and local. So it has all those pieces that come together to improve our community's lives. So through that, a lot of times they'll split it into different branches as well. So, like in my office, we have a family consumer science educator, we have a 4-H educator, and then I'm the ag and horticulture, well, the agriculture educator, but I also get to cover horticulture. Some counties have a dedicated horticulture person, which is really cool. But we get to, focus on those areas and improving our community's lives.
And so let's take it a step further. What are some of those actual strategies and tactics? Tell us about, is it newsletters? Is it events? Is it speaking? Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, you actually covered three of the biggest things that I do. So I do a monthly newsletter. Some counties do them more often. It just kind of depends on what your producers need. But my monthly one focuses on agriculture tips, like for livestock. We also do a horticulture page, like, gardening tips and things to do this month, things to be aware of. I know recently, like the USDA has changed some tagging regulations as far as disease traceability. So those kinds of updates, I put those in my newsletter so that my producers know what's going on and what to look for. Some other things we do is a lot of social media posting. That's a pretty good way to reach people now. So we'll do updates of events that are coming up, programs that they might want to take advantage of, things to look out for, like the prussic acid with all the droughts this year. When we had rain, we're posting about that. Like, this is something to look out for, and we can come test that. So we do a lot of newsletters. We can write articles for the newspaper just to get information out. I also do consultations, and I can go out to producers' farms. If they have something they need help looking at, I'm like, hey, that's my job. I'll come out and look at it, and I'll connect you with our specialists and our researchers that are going to have all the details and all the answers and be able to figure out your situation. So other things that we do is like plan events. I just had a workshop last night where we learned about bats, which was really cool.
Oh,
Perfect way to kick off October.
right?
So that was a lot of fun. So we do things like that. We also do more long-term sessions, like a master gardener class. So those types of things are what we do. We also do soil, water, and hay testing through the office. So basically, people bring in those samples, we send them off to the lab, and then the lab sends me the results, and I can interpret them and tell you, well, you need this fertilizer, you need this to help fix your water, this is how good your hay is, and this is how we can supplement it for the winter. So all those types of things, it's like limitless, and for the most part, we try to do it either free or low cost.
Yeah.
So we make it accessible for the community.
It's such an incredible resource. And again, Stephanie, people don't know about it. And so that's why I wanted you to explain a little bit about that. And so listeners, if you are not following your local, your county, your state extension, go do that. You can follow them on social media like Stephanie mentioned. I actually still get the Bourbon County, Kentucky, extension newsletter digitally every month. And there's just so much great information from recipes to, as
Mhm.
you say, managing hay through the drought and what we're looking for. And then your ability to continue just growing your network, right? If you've got questions in Oklahoma and then you're connecting with someone in Nebraska because they've dealt with it, so I just think it's such a cool career. And you did not go to college saying, I want to be an extension educator, right? Like that was
Yeah.
discovery.
I actually had no idea extension existed until my junior year of college, which is crazy. And you mentioned about just people not knowing what extension is. And that's something that we say is that extension is one of the best kept secrets, but we don't want to be secret. We don't. So that is a big part of my job is trying to get out what we can do and how we can help. So
Yeah.
even if you have questions like, there's a weed in my lawn, what is it and how do I get rid of it? Send a picture to your agent, to your county educator, literally.
Yes.
Call them and be like, hey, can I send you a picture of this? I don't know what it is, and that's something that we can do is just answer questions like that. So, yeah, I had no
Yeah.
idea that this was what I wanted to do. And then I absolutely fell in love with it. So,
So listeners hear that, right? Like what some cool career opportunities. And while they're the best kept secret, they don't want to be. So go learn a little bit more about your extension operation wherever you live, whatever state you're in, whatever county you're in. They do have just some really cool opportunities. And, one of the things that I learned, Stephanie, along the way is you all have a lot of grants and access to dollars that, for instance, maybe I'll throw this out here, but it's probably more Kentucky than Oklahoma. But for producers that want to put in erosion control, right? Or, do some things like that, oftentimes there's money available to support them in doing things like feeding pads or something that's going to help manage the land. Is that correct?
that is correct. We do have access to a lot of the resources, and we can point you in the direction of the people that can get you those funds.
Yeah.
So actually, I know here what I've dealt with, a lot of them is actually through the NRCS and the USDA. They have programs, but we have pretty good relationships with those organizations, especially locally.
Yeah.
So if you come in and you're like, hey, I'm having this problem, I need cross fencing, I'm like, perfect. NRCS has a cost share program. This is who you need to call, and they will get you set up. So,
Awesome.
yes,
And
you
tell our
definitely.
listeners what NRCS is.
It is the Natural Resource Conservation Service, and it is like a branch. It's through the USDA as well, which is the United States Department of Ag.
Okay.
So every state should also have a state Department of Agriculture, and that is also a really good place to go to if you have questions or you're looking for cost share programs and grants and funding. Pretty much most states should have those. They
Yeah.
have money and they want to give it to you, especially if you're going to be helping the environment and making those improvements.
Yeah, incredible. Okay, so you have some advice because I love, especially you are 1 year out of college and have this incredible career in Oklahoma, made the move not only from Virginia to Kentucky, but then Kentucky to Oklahoma. But you've got some advice. And so if you think back over the last 5 years of this rapid evolution of your young professional life, you have some advice for others. And one of those, you talk about finding your why. Can you speak to that?
Yes, and I actually love this one because it ties back into UK. I know when I was a freshman, they had all the banners and the signs all along the sidewalks. They were like, "What's your why?" And at first, you're kind of like, "What do you mean? Why are they asking you that?" And then the longer you're there, you realize, "What's your why?" It means, "Why are you here? Why are you doing what you're doing? Why do you want to do it? Why is this important to you?" So those are kind of big questions, and the answer is going to change. It's going to evolve as you take more risks and take advantage of opportunities. You're going to get deeper and deeper into this is why I want to do this. This is why I love it. And this is the impact that I can make or that I want to make. So this is the reason, the purpose. Finding a purpose really is the whole idea there because that is going to give you direction, it's going to give you energy, it's going to give you passion to accomplish whatever your reason is. So I would really recommend, even if you're just starting off with a little thing like, oh, I like horses, so that's why I'm here. But then once you're there, you're like, no, I love the community, I love the industry and what we can do. So it just keeps getting deeper and deeper. So
Yeah, it's such great advice. And I would tell our listeners, if they haven't, you can go and pull up Simon Sinek on YouTube and listen to What's Your Why. But, just to your point, what you just said, yeah, it starts out as like, I love horses. But then the next question is why? Why do you love horses, right? Like, so you just keep asking why and truly figure out at the core of who you are. I laugh, Stephanie, because even just this morning when I was getting ready and I look over at my dog laying upside down on my bed, I'm like, well, this is why I go to work. This is why I do what I do, right? Like, so you can live this bougie life that you're living laying upside down on my bed. And so it can be fun and funny, but if you're constantly kind of asking yourself, why do I do what I do? It really starts to clarify who you are, what you do, and why you do what you do. And it gives you the energy, to your point. I just love how you said that, the energy and the passion of your purpose.
thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, so good. Okay, your number two piece of advice. This my listeners know, Stephanie, that this is singing my song, but relationships and networks. You mentioned the importance of you said the words amazing mentors. So tell us why you say build strong relationships and your reputation will speak for itself.
Yes. So I'm going to touch on the mentors first. That was a big thing for me in college, especially not knowing anybody, being first gen, not knowing anything, not knowing what I didn't know. Having those people that you could turn to and just feel like, hey, this is what's going on. I'm not really sure what to think. Where do I go from here? Like, what do you suggest? What was their story? They can kind of give you that insight and also help you figure out, again, what's your why? Why are you doing this? How can you improve on it? How can you build on it? So I had a few really, really good mentors. One of them was through the first gen program. Her name was Angela. She was in charge of the English as a second language for the grad school, which she's actually moved on to another really awesome opportunity for her. But she was a mentor with me the whole time I was at UK. So we would meet up, once or twice a month, go get coffee or go sit down for lunch, and we would just talk and like build that relationship. Um, and she wasn't part of equine science or the College of Ag. So we built connections through the rest of the university, and she introduced me to more people and had all these really great advice. So that was really awesome. I would say Krista and Dr. Smith were other really, really good mentors that really impacted my time at UK and, of course, my future. And then even Kristen Wilson, she was one of I'm sure you probably know her.
Oh, I
She was
do.
with the
Yes.
Equine Science program, and now she's at Spy Coast. But especially I met Kristen. Um, she was actually like my advisor freshman year, and then I had class with her. And then eventually she ran the Wildcat Wrangler program when I was a part of it. So I cannot thank Kristen enough for the impact she helped me make as far as just like personal growth and getting myself out there and encouraging me. And she was actually one of the first people who suggested extension as a career because I told her how much I loved the internship I was doing, and she's like, well, you could do that as a career. You could be in accounting somewhere. She's like, I think you'd be great at that. And then that really got me thinking. I was like, maybe I could do that.
Right.
So it was a little scary at first because, my job now is talking to strangers and presenting and giving discussions and like those types of things, which was really scary. But now I absolutely love it. And having someone who could see that I might be really good at it and just telling me that, it made a huge impact. So finding those mentors is a really big part of, the experience and helping yourself grow.
Yeah.
So I really liked that. And then
So good, right? Find those people that are at least 5, 10, 15 years ahead of you doing things you're interested in doing. People that care, right? People that were willing to give their time. And so we know, like Krista Lay, like you mentioned, she's been a
Mhm.
previous guest. I should have looked up what episode she's on, but listeners, go back and listen to that
Mhm.
episode if you haven't, right? Kristen Wilson, there's one I probably ought to have on, right? Kristen is
Yeah.
just so, she's so full of energy and passion for the industry and for students and for outreach. So shout out to Kristen for sure. But these are the kind of people that you want to meet and surround yourself with. So yes, you built strong relationships, and
Mhm.
that to you says that your reputation will speak for itself.
I do like to think of it that way because, especially once you've built those relationships and kind of built your career on top of that, I know everyone says you have to network, but it's the truth because people, especially when they want help or they want advice, they want someone that they know and trust and can go to. So if someone comes to you, especially an extension, and you can give them a correct, helpful answer, they're going to remember that.
Yeah.
And they're going to be like, yes, I can trust you. I know even if you don't know the answer, you're going to find it for me and you're going to help me. And then they'll go and tell other people. They're like, hey,
Yes.
they know what they're talking about. They can help. So I know in my career, that's a big thing, but in other careers, that could look different. Um, but that's why building those relationships is eventually everyone's going to know who you are and what you can do for them or how you can help. Um, and of course, that'll look different in different careers, but that's why I say that it'll building those relationships and your reputation will speak for you. And of course, I'm still building that. So come back in a couple of years and we'll see how
Right?
successful that was.
Maybe that'll be one of my projects to touch base
Yeah.
back, right? You're in your first year, but I mean, that's so much wisdom right there. And what you're saying is, yeah, people will know what you can do for them, etc. But even more importantly, what you're telling us, Stephanie, is people will know that you care enough to find the answer. And so, two pieces of that. You don't have to know everything. Be willing to go the extra mile, and people will know that you're willing to go the extra mile.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's my whole purpose here with this career is that I'm here for my community and to answer the questions they have. So it's much better to say, hey, I actually don't know the answer. Let me find out for you, rather than make something up and then be wrong and they killed their whole garden because they sprayed something on it, you know. So, which I think that speaks to like even just personal relationships. It's okay to
Yes.
admit when you're wrong, and that is so empowering that, hey, I don't know, but I want to find out and I will. So,
Yeah.
and following up on that, that again will build your reputation. Like she said she was going to call me back, and she actually did. She didn't
Right.
just forget about me. So that is huge. Even just in your personal relationships, do what you say and say what you mean.
Yes. Amen to that. And so your final piece of advice, Stephanie, is that you say do it scared.
Yes.
Tell us more.
So I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory, but for me, I just say it's okay to be scared. It's okay not to know. And if you don't do it, the only person you're hurting is yourself.
Yeah.
You know, the what ifs can be really scary. What if it goes wrong? What if I embarrass myself? What if I do a bad job? But also, what if you do a great job? What if you meet some amazing people?
Yeah.
What if you get even more opportunities? What if you make a difference for somebody else? So it's okay to be scared, but you have to do it anyway. Don't let that hold you back.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing. And I forced myself to do that, especially by moving 8 hours away to school. And then now I'm 20 hours
I was,
away from home.
yeah.
So
That's
it's
what I
just
was
like,
just gonna say. Like here
yeah.
you are building a life as a young woman in Oklahoma, 20 something hours away. And so let's take that and ask the question, what is one piece of advice you would give our listeners related to life balance? Because that's just what you've done, right? You've done it scared. You're out in the middle of, a completely new environment, and you again went there not knowing anyone. You have to be working through the challenges of life balance as a young person. So tell us.
Yeah, it can be really difficult, especially because you know the things you like to do and how you like to spend your free time, but you have to find that balance. Like work can't be everything. I would definitely suggest if you can pick a career that you love, do that because then it adds energy to your life. it doesn't feel like a job. So I love coming to work every day. And a lot of times I do get to work extra. I get to do evening events and weekend things, and I love that. But then I also make sure that I set aside time for myself. You have to be able to relax and do the things you enjoy outside of work, whether that's, building relationships with friends. I have a dog and we go hiking all the time. He loves to swim. So we're always exploring and being outside. Um, and you also have to find other things that will help fill up your cup. So I will share that recently I've started volunteering at an equine assisted therapy program in my hometown now, my new hometown. And I absolutely love that. It's only once a week, but I'm paired up with one little boy. So I'm his mentor and he's my mentee. And we get to spend an hour together every single week for the next 10 months, for the whole school year.
Wow.
And it's a really amazing program. They focus on kids who have dealt with complex trauma, and a lot of them are either foster or adopted children. But it's an amazing program, and it just adds so much to my life outside of my career. And it also reminds me of, you know, why I want to help the community and like why building those relationships is so important. It's just kind of like a different avenue of it. Um, so, find those things that you're passionate about. You can have passion for more than one thing,
Yeah.
so do what you love. And so even though my job is more ag based now, I found a way to get back to the barn and to be with the horses and to do the equine assisted therapy with the kids. So, there's always those opportunities. And I just saw that on Facebook. They were like, hey, we're looking for more mentors. We're looking to expand the program. And I just had that feeling. I was like, I need to do that. And absolutely love it. So,
Wow.
just take those opportunities and find things that you love and make time for them, make them a priority.
Absolutely. Oh, that's so inspiring, right? And so not only are you in your first year of a demanding job that requires a lot of your time and a lot of organization and knowing that you're going to be different places, right? And traveling and doing events, evenings and weekends, but to make this commitment to do the freedom reins and volunteer and make such an impact in a young man's little boy's life, just truly inspiring. And those are the stories that I love to share, Stephanie. So your career journey is beautiful, right? So 5 years ago, you were a high school senior, and now you are an extension educator in Oklahoma. Who knew, right? Like that just wasn't a script that you wrote. And I love sharing that you are truly living inspired, fulfilled, and empowered, right? That's my Jodi Speaks life. And not only are you a thriving equine professional, but you are really setting such an example for others. Is there any advice as we wrap up that you would share with a young listener, right? Like a Stephanie 2 years ago or 4 years ago? Is there any other advice that you would share?
Hmm. I would tell her that it's okay for things to not go to plan. Um, you can have a plan, you can have a roadmap, you can have ideas, but don't let that hold you back because you never know. Like I would have never guessed I could be here today. So if I had stuck to my original plan or been like, no, that doesn't fit, I'm interested, but I'm not gonna spend time doing it. There's so many things you could miss out on. So
Yeah.
it's okay to have a plan, but don't write it in pen. Write it in pencil and erase where you need to.
Oh, there. Boom. That's a mic drop. It's okay to have a plan, but don't write it in pen. Write it in pencil. Oh, there's nothing else I can say, Stephanie. Like that is the mic drop right there. Stephanie, thank you so much for sharing with us today. I am just so excited about what you're doing and the example that you're setting. I can't wait to share your story. And I know that our listeners are going to want to follow you. And most of them know that the first place I'm going to send them is LinkedIn. So you and I are connected on LinkedIn. They can find you, Stephanie Smith, Oklahoma Extension, on LinkedIn. And where else do you want to send them? What do you want to give a shout out to as far as connection?
Another really good place if you're looking for me and if you want to see kind of an example of what your county extension might be doing, we have our Facebook page. It's Carter County OSU Extension. That would be a great place to go. But of course, I'm going to tell you, go to your county extension too. Whatever your state should have extension, wherever you are. And I know UK does. I know they do in Kentucky, so
That's
reach
right.
out to them.
Awesome. Stephanie, thank you so much for joining the Thriving Equine Professional podcast. We are so appreciative of your time, and we know you have to get back to work. Thrivers, thanks for another great week, and we'll see you back here same time next week. Cheers.